There's Richard. Is that our Richard? Oh, I thought maybe it was Richard Lindsay.
Oh, Richard is on, yes.
Okay, good.
Well,
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the September 6th, 2022 Finance Committee meeting. Hope everybody had a great long weekend. Just a few reminders for if you could please have your cell phones on either vibrate or silent. Those who would like to make public comment, please approach the table and identify yourself for the record, please. And we'll just be discussing the items that are on the agenda, and we do have two late additions to the agenda for today's meeting. With that, Jen, if you please read the first item.
Number 15, ordinance third reading, amending chapter 2.04, mayor and city council within title II, administration and personnel, and chapter 12.04, streets, sidewalks, and driveways generally within title 12, streets, sidewalks, and public places of the municipal code of the city of Cheyenne, Wyoming, to amend provision governing contract approvals.
Staff report, please.
Good afternoon, Chairman White, members of the Finance Committee, Tom Cobb, City Engineer. So before you is a modification to the ordinance, and specifically this addresses execution of city contracts that would not come in front of the governing body. So the first item is that we would like to increase the amount for professional services agreement back to the 50,000, which meets state statute. And the second component to this is related to contract modifications. And specifically to give control then, so when we have project completion dates that are extensions, that would be the first component of that for contract mods, so that I wouldn't have to go back to you for during construction for those. Those occur all the time, and I think it wastes your time, and it then slows us all down to move forward. So again, it's really to speed up for construction since our seasons are so slow. And the second component of this is for modifications for money, and that would be either the less of 35,000 or 20% of the contract that then would be signed by the mayor and the treasurer for both these extensions and the money wise.
Great.
And with that, I'll have any questions that you have for me.
Thanks, Mr. Cobb. Please stand by. For those here and online, Dr. Aldridge is with me, obviously, and Mr. Johnson and Mr. Escabel are both attending via Zoom. With that, are there any comments from the public on this item? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded by Mr. Escabel. Comments from committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this ordinance, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
That item moves forward with Mr. Johnson as a no. Thank you, Tom. Next item.
Number 28D, owner and design builder agreement between the city of Cheyenne and FCI Constructors of Wyoming LLC for finishing the Cheyenne Public Safety Center, 2012 1% specific purpose option tax fund.
Staff report.
Good afternoon, Chairman White, other council members. I'm Joel Hickerson. I'm the lieutenant with the Cheyenne Police Department. This is a request for the design build agreement to set aside $150,000 of the $2.3 million we have in Sixth Penny for the specific project. The $150,000 would allow the contractor FCI to move forward with a specified design, build, and architectural rendering, so we know exactly what we are looking forward to finish a 6,500 square foot area of unfinished space, as well as to alter 600 square feet of current use space. The $150,000 is a flat rate fee. It would not go smaller or larger depending on the size of the project. It is simply the upfront fee saying that we're going to stand by our agreement, and they're going to stand by their agreement through the design build process.
Thank you. Stand by. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to adopt.
And an amount.
It doesn't have an amount there. Oh, sorry, an amount not to exceed $150,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee.
I have a question.
Dr. Aldrich.
So is the $150,000, would it be applied to the total price?
Yes, so that would make the remaining funds, the 2.15 million, within the contract. They agree not to exceed the finance amount we have. They understand what our working numbers are through that 6 penny agreement, and they agree that they will finish it within that financial restriction.
Do you, follow-up
ahead.
question, Chairman White, do you think it might come in under the 2.15 million? My experience is that if they know that's what we have to work with, their receipts will total $2.15 million.
So part of why we have this overage is that the previous build out did end up being slightly more affordable than initially intended. Mr. Bartlewart can maybe provide additional information on this, but in this process so far, they have generally shown that they have a propensity of coming in slightly under the budget. That way, should we have needed budget alterations, they can flex within that. If they should do that, if you read the entire documentation, we go through an entire approval process on both parts through FCI and through the city of Cheyenne to make sure everyone's in agreement as to any changes that are going to be needed.
I have one more question.
Go ahead.
My last question is, as I was reading through all of these pages, which I did, it talks about the length of warranty. So the warranty for, in this particular agreement is only for their design work. It's not for the actual building. And it doesn't give any length of time for the building when we get into the building aspect. So will there be a length of time associated with that warranty when we get into the building aspect? Or can we make sure that there is some sort of a warranty timeline given as we move into that aspect?
So all of that is on a to be decided basis at this point. The only thing they're warranting right now, and the only thing being requested right now is that design build front end aspect of the project. As soon as we are able to move into the finalization aspects of the project, then the warranties and guarantees would come into play in a longer contract.
And so we'll make sure that those are delineated before we get that. Thank you.
TJ. Go
Chairman,
ahead.
if I may, TJ Bartlewart, Purchasing Manager, to kind of address your question earlier about what the 150,000 gets us and how it relates to future fees that will come down the line. The 150,000 is really like the pre-construction phase of the project, and that's just to get them under contract to begin the design phase. It'll be very similar to what we'll see here in the coming days or weeks for our construction of our fire stations. They will then provide their guaranteed maximum price for these services. So the 150 is the pre-construction, and then there will be the additional design build fee, which will be our guaranteed maximum price. So I don't know that I would necessarily say it's going to pay paid towards that, but will kind of be the combination of what was pre-construction and what the GNP cost is. So whether you factor that in or not is kind of, does that clarify more what
Yes.
you were after?
Thanks.
Okay, sure.
I have a quick question. Are you coordinating this project?
Yes, sir, I am.
So did Mr. Minari finally retire?
No, he will still maintain building maintenance and operations.
Okay,
However, in his current position of building maintenance and operations, he does not have the flexibility or the time available to oversee this project in its entirety.
Okay.
He will remain as a highly qualified conduit for information and advice. But no, this build out is falling under my supervision.
well, congratulations, because
Maybe.
previous conversations that we've had, Mr. Minari was always before us, and I just wondered, are we ever going to get this project done before he leaves us? So,
That's the plan, yes, sir.
okay, he's probably hanging on until this project is done.
He definitely wants to be there to see it through.
Any other comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Next item, Jen. Number 28E, agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Streamlink Software Incorporated, doing business as Ampli Fund, for a multi-year contract for grant management software, General Fund and American Rescue Plan Federal Recovery Funds.
Staff report. Hello, Renee. We haven't seen you in a
I
while.
know, good afternoon. Renee Smith, Grants Manager. So as you know, a year ago, we purchased Amplifund to try to put all the grants in one place. That contract expires this month, so we've negotiated a 5-year contract at a 10% discount. And so we're hoping to use American Rescue Plan funds for the first 4 years up until that deadline of 2026. The 5th year then will be general funds. So just to give you an update, we've got 44 users in Amplifund. We are managing, so the goal is to create a historical document, for grantors. We have 177 records, 62 active grants for a total of $35 million. We have 25 pending grants that we've submitted within the last year for almost $9 million. So it sort of helps all of us. We can put our documents in there. The auditors we have quick access to everything, and everybody can log in and upload, and it just keeps us connected on a better level. So we are requesting $67,500 over the next 5 years for basically we're creating a new contract instead of extending the original one. So I am available for any questions.
Thanks, Renee. Stand by. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $67,500.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions from the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you, Renee, as I was reading through this, I didn't see a part about 44 users. So those are basically licensed use agreements.
Yes, ma'am. We have actually unlimited users. And so each department has identified project managers, grant managers, all the department directors are in there, as well as just anybody who's affiliated with grants has an account. So we're unlimited with that.
Yeah, my question was if it was limited on users. And then I noticed that this also includes 35 training or coaching hours that you have to use before June 30th of this next year. And can those 35 training or coaching hours be provided for all 44 users, or is that just for one individual?
So, Mr. Chair, through you. So what we've done is that actually was part of the original contract. We didn't use them all, so we renegotiated to tack it on. So we've hosted training sessions that go out to all of the departments. We do it through Zoom. Everybody logs in. We do sample grants. Here's from start to finish, and then here's how to maintain them. So it does go out. We're doing, I think we've done 4 sessions. And so before June of 2023, we'll probably, as we bring in new departments, a lot of turnover, trying to get people up to speed, especially with the amount of federal grants we have opening right now. There's just a lot of hands in this. And so we will be doing some extensive training. And I think the goal is once we get going with the financials too, we will be able to connect that. So that will help Amber have, so doubling the work of having to do it in 2 different systems. It will all still be in one place. So there will be some extensive training. Our goal is to use up all those hours before, because it's about $175 an hour once those expire. So.
No question.
Great, Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you, I was just curious as to whether this is compatible or not with our NeoGov software that we're going to be utilizing.
I believe so. We've talked to them about it, and what they will do is they can create it in on their end as well. They're a sole source company, and because it's a much bigger entity than the outdated one we're currently using, it should be a pretty seamless transition once we get going.
Renee, are you seeing value with the software?
Very much so, very much so. Just being able to run the reports, and we were doing kind of an access database with an Excel spreadsheet. This, I think, because we can also set reminders and calendars. So everyone here gets lovely reminders from me that you owe me something. So it's kind of nice that I can go in and we can really have a stronger handle on what we've got, so we're not missing deadlines. That was my biggest fear.
And before we move forward, could you repeat the numbers that you gave
Sure.
us? I think you said 65 active grants.
We have 62 active
62
grants. And it's
active
about
grants.
$35,326,996.74. I can email this
That's
to you.
awesome.
But yeah, and then for pending, we've got almost $9 million. There's 25 pending applications. We've probably heard from about 10 of them that we've been approved, but we haven't received the contracts yet. But it's about $11 million in project total, but the grant funding is almost 9. So that includes the match and stuff like that in the 11 million.
Very impressive. Thank you.
We've been working hard this
You
year.
guys
Yeah.
have been.
Nice job.
Any other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thanks, Renee. Next item, please.
Number 28F, memorandum of understanding between the City of Cheyenne Transit Division and Laramie County to provide public transportation services to Laramie County Community College and for an area of Laramie County immediately adjacent to the city, revenue to the city.
Hello, Renee.
Hi, Renee Jordan Transit. This is for $88,000. This is our annual agreement with the county commissioners. This is 5% more than I asked for last year. This money is used as match for our 5307 FTA grant, so it's double savings for the city. I'm available for any questions.
Stand by. Comments or questions from members of the public? Do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $88,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
I'm just curious, so with this MOU, have we been running a route even though we haven't been running routes? Does that
We're
make sense?
providing service to the county. Even though we're not running routes, we're providing service.
So
to-
this is kind of the curb to curb in that
It's on
area.
demand.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Will it eventually be a route or will it always through this MOU have to be a curb to curb situation?
This is just for match, so it's however we can provide service.
Okay, so as we build out those routes that you talked about last week, if we use a route and it somehow services LCCC, we would still be able to access this funding.
Yes.
Awesome.
And Renee, you mentioned that it was going to be a 5% increase.
The only thing I wanted to say, Vicky Nemechek as Public Works, is I don't think we should put the not to exceed.
I wondered about that because if we could get more, I mean, we can always get more, right? I mean,
They have
so
done that.
a minimum of $88,000.
So I think
Yes.
then that you'll need to withdraw your motion and make another
could you
make
amend
another
it then?
motion to delete that not to exceed
Okay,
part.
so I would, do you want me to do it now?
That's fine. Yeah.
I would move that we approve this with an amount, a minimum amount of $88,000.
Second
Seriously.
agree.
It's been moved and seconded again. Okay, so we have a motion to approve and a minimal amount of $88,000. And Renee, my question before Vicky came in was you had mentioned you're asking for 5% more this year. I'm assuming that's because of gas prices, et cetera.
Exactly.
That's what I thought. Just wanted to get that on record. Other comments or questions from members of the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor to approve this amount to approve a minimum amount of $88,000 for this item, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Next item.
Number 28G, grant agreement between the City of Cheyenne and the Federal Transit Administration to fund transit operations. ARP 5307 grant.
Hello, Renee.
Hi, Renee Jordan Transit. Excuse me, this is the FTA 5307 ARP allocation for Cheyenne. It's a total of $401,959 of 100% federal funds, so there's no match required. And it is to be used for operations. And I'm available for any questions.
Stand by. Any comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount of $401,959.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thanks, Renee. Next item, please.
Number 28H, agreement between the City of Cheyenne Community Recreation and Events and the Officials for Fun Club to officiate the 2022-2023 Youth and Adult Volleyball Programs, Recreation Programs Fund.
Staff report.
Jason Sanchez, Community Rec and Events. Mr. Chair, Committee, the contract basically is what Jennifer read. This is just for our officiating services for both our youth and adult leagues. The contract is pretty clear on what the expectations are of the refs and then what penalties there are if any of the services aren't rendered. And then what our payments look like. All of the funds for this are paid through the event itself. So each program, we charge enough to pay for the services that we provide. There aren't many changes to this contract from previous years. I will say that it's becoming more and more difficult every year to find referees for all of the sports that we have. And so we're appreciative of this group and ask for your support.
Thanks, Jason. Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve.
Is there a second? I'll second for discussion.
I don't think you can.
Oh,
Second for
oh,
discussion.
Stephanie's shaking her head no. So if there is no second,
There'll be no recommendation.
there'll be no recommendation from this committee.
Can I ask questions?
Curious, I am gonna allow some discussion. Go ahead, Dr. Aldridge.
Chairman White, through you, I'm just curious, Jason, I know that I was looking through here at all the penalties, for instance, if they don't show up in time, if they show up during, before the second game and all sorts of, it's pretty complicated outline. I'm just wondering, because I believe that we had those same types of conditions on the one that we did for baseball as well. Is that correct? Yeah, softball. And so this is very like what we've done for other organized sports. And do we have, or can you get me a list of the principals of the For Fun Club, the people that we're contracting with, who those individuals are, or who owns that group? Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
And Jason, I think this kind of speaks to what you were saying. The fees that we charge, it's basically a revenue neutral, isn't it correct? I mean, we're just charging the amount of fees to the players and teams so that we can pay for the refs and facilities, correct?
That is correct.
Great. Well, I do sympathize with you on finding refs. I know it's I think it's not just a community-wide problem, it's a statewide problem. They're having that issue for football, basketball with high schools all across the state, so. Good, better luck.
All right.
Thanks.
And again, because there was no second, that item does not have a recommendation for next week's meeting. Next item, please.
Number 28I, agreement between the City of Cheyenne, Office of Youth Alternatives in Laramie County for juvenile probation services.
Is there a staff report?
Jason, yeah.
Committee members and Chairman Jay Sullivan, Director of Youth Alternatives. This is a longstanding agreement and partnership that the city and Youth Alternatives had with Laramie County to provide juvenile services for the youth of Laramie County. The amount this year represents a 10% increase in revenue to the city over the previous years. I'll stand by for any questions.
Thanks, Jay. Comments from the public? Do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve at an amount that a minimum amount not to be below 70, where are we at? $66,000, but it's a minimum rather than to exceed.
Okay. Comments or it's been moved and seconded. Thanks, Richard. It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none. All those in favor of this grant agreement, please, or not a grant agreement, just agreement between the City of Cheyenne and Youth Alternatives in Laramie County, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward.
Number 28J, contract between the City of Cheyenne, Office of Youth Alternatives, and Laramie County for on-call crisis center services.
Staff report.
Chairman, committee members, once again, Jay Sullivan, Director of Youth Alternatives. This is the contract between the City of Cheyenne Youth Alternatives and Laramie County for crisis center services. This was originally a contract that began back with the Joint Powers Board and was in effect up until I believe it was year before last, and then state funds were not available. The county took this over and will continue to fund the services provided by Youth Alternatives to the Crisis Center. I'll stand by for any questions.
Thanks, Jay. Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to be below $75,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee?
I have some.
Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you. Mr. Sullivan, I'm just curious. So this provides basically crisis sheltering for youth?
Mr. Chairman, through you to Dr. Aldrich. Basically, Youth Alternative screens the calls coming into the Crisis Center through our emergency service to determine the appropriate placement of the youth that will be going out there. It's a partnership that we've had since the opening of the Crisis Center. In addition, we will work with the families and the youth that are in the Crisis Center in terms of counseling and support. We do not provide any in-house residential type services.
So through you,
Go ahead.
Chairman White. So when you're referring to the crisis center, what you're really talking about is the crisis center that's out at the Laramie Detention Center?
Correct. Through you, Mr. Chairman, to Dr. Elwood.
Other comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this agreement, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
No one's opposed, that item moves forward.
Number 29B, contract modification number 1 to contract number 7545 between the City of Cheyenne and OpenGov Incorporated for software as a service solution for budgeting, financial management, procurement, citizen services, reporting, transparency, and asset management from American Rescue Plan Federal Recovery Funds.
All right, Mr. Skinner, this is the first time we've seen you before the committee in this role, so welcome.
Second time, actually.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so when we had the original contract, that was
Oh.
the first time. but
The meetings all run together.
it's- I get it. I get
So,
it.
welcome
Yeah.
back then.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Staff report, please.
Good afternoon, committee members. Before you is a contract modification for OpenGov and its partner Cartograph. As a refresher, OpenGov Cloud software will elevate and transform several city processes into a digital format. Currently, we're in the midst of incorporating the OpenGov citizen services and procurement suites, and it's really been exciting to see our progression thus far. The second piece of this original contract is with Cartograph, which is an asset management tool. Fleet inventory, fleet maintenance work, road conditions, and city building inventory are examples of what Cartograph does. This contract modification today is to incorporate C-Click Fix software, a 311 solution for residents to report issues and identify repairs they see in the community. C-Click Fix integrates into Cartograph, which will allow constituents reports to populate automatically into pertinent staff workflows. Currently, this is a manual process for our staff members. And once implemented, C-Click Fix will replace many of our report a concern icons on our website. C-Click Fix was mentioned, but was not included in our original agreement with Cartograph. It would have to be acquired separately. Vicki Nemechek and I explored third-party options for a 311 solution, and C-Click Fix was pinned as the best option due to its integration with Cartograph. And it's more streamlined workflow. The total modification amount for the original OpenGov Cartograph contract is $85,131 over the span of 4 years using ARPA funds. And I believe we also have Heather Henderson on Zoom with us today from Cartograph. Should you have any questions, she may be able to answer. And I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Skinner. Please stand by. Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $85,131.
second,
It's been moved and seconded. Comments or questions from the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you, I'm just curious, so the $85,131 is basically for a 4-year period, it looks like. So we're talking, it's about $23,000.
Chairman White, through you, President White, or Chairman, sorry, you were president.
Yes, I don't have
Sorry.
that distinguishment.
Off to a
anymore.
great start. Chairman
Just a
White,
lowly chair.
through you to Dr. Aldrich, you are correct. It's going to be about $23,000 per year. The first year, it's a prorated contract because this really is contingent on Cartograph beginning, which we are looking probably the first quarter, end of this year,
March,
first
it
quarter of next year. So that first year is prorated to be, I think it's, if I scroll down a little bit, $13,500, but then years 2 through 4 are going to be $23,000, $24,000 per year.
Great, thank you.
And on Dr. Aldrich's question. So once this contract ends on June 30th, 2026, do we have an idea of what the cost will be going forward after that?
I don't have a specific number, but
I'm sure it's hard to give us
right. I
a
just
nailed down figure, but is there a
You
ballpark?
want- This is Heather at Cartograph. Do you want me to chime in there?
Please do, Heather.
Absolutely.
Yep. Thanks, guys. So our normal increase when you sign a new contract with us, a new multi-year contract with us, is going to be somewhere between 5 to 8% increase. And that's for all product lines, including C-Click Fix.
What's the reasons for those increases? Is that
Excuse me?
what's the reason for those increases? Is that standard practice?
Yep, it's standard practice for all of our customers and all of our products that we sell at Cartograph. So everyone sees that amount of increase. Within a multi-year contract, the year-to-year price is a 3% increase at this point in time. Just that first year will go up by about 5 to 8%, and then it's 3% after that within the contract.
Another
Thank
question.
you. Dr. Aldrich, go ahead.
Chairman White, through you, your question prompted another thought on my mind, is that I'm guessing that you have a way to track the clicks or the impressions that are being utilized by the software. So do you have numbers on that historically, and will you be continuing to track that so that because quite honestly, if people are using it, I'm all about paying for it, but if they're not using it, I can't see paying for things people aren't using.
Chairman White to Dr. Aldrich. Yeah, that's one of the big parts of C-Click Fix, and why it would be important is because there's going to be a lot of data that comes along with it. That's one thing we're really missing a lot of right now. To your question more specifically, I was able to look up some of the numbers we've had for the last 2 years since we incorporated our current report of concern features. And for pothole requests, this is about since July 2020, we've had nearly 1,500 pothole requests.
Well, with Engineer Cobb, we're not gonna have any more potholes, so we won't
I
have to worry
know.
about that, right?
That's what I'm
gonna move
That's
before.
what
the
I think we're
lightning
gonna have
strikes.
too. But then we've had 500 for alley road blading, 60 for plugged inlets, 73 for drainage concerns, 165 for sanding/plowing concerns, almost 200 for street sweeping. And right now, that's just manually, it's categorized by the time these requests come in.
Right.
With C-Click Fix, it would help translate with a lot of data. If we're getting a lot of pothole requests in this specific corner of our community, it can help pinpoint, all right, do we need to address this in a different way than just pothole requests? And help you kind of just categorize data a little bit more thoroughly than what we have now.
Does C-Click Fix send a work order immediately? I'm sorry, Chairman White.
Go ahead.
Immediately to the department that is responsible for taking care of that?
Chairman White to Dr. Aldridge, yes. That's one of the key points with SeeClick Fix is that it integrates into Cartograph, which is a lot primarily going to be used by Public Works and Engineering. So if we get a pothole request, that can be geared to go directly to our street and alley department, and then they can take care of the matter.
Great, thank you.
I have one more question, technology question. I
Okay.
don't know if you can answer it or Heather, but if we approve this software and it's something that the city obtains, is there? So if I have a complaint I want to make, am I going to have to do that on a web link? Or is there an app that would come with it, where I could just
Do it on your phone.
download the app and do it on my phone?
Heather, would you be able to answer that best?
Yep, for sure. And actually this goes, I was kind of thinking this when it goes back to maybe the number of clicks or number of requests that you're getting. It does come with a downloadable from the App Store, Google Play app for all citizens. So I do think that you probably might get some more citizen requests because everyone's on their phones nowadays. So that just comes with it. That's no extra cost to the citizens. They just download it, create an account. They can submit their requests anonymously or with their name and contact information. Sometimes, I think that as a city, encouraging people to submit their requests with their name and contact information is best, because if they don't give enough information, you can't really do much with it. So being able to kind of complete that communication loop is going to be key. The other thing, to kind of explain, why I'm an employee of Cartograph and on the phone talking about SeeClick Fix here, is that we are a business partner and reseller of SeeClick Fix. And we will create the integration between Cartograph and SeeClick Fix. So the minute a request comes in, down sign, for example, it's going to be routed and work will be created in Cartograph to go do something about that. So then the work goes out and gets completed as the sign is fixed. That information then is automatically
We'll
flows
keep
back
moving
through
forward.
SeeClick Fix.
Michael, if folks.
So
Yeah.
if we can make sure we maintain that, that would be helpful.
There's a big desire
Right.
to do that, actually.
And especially depending on the situation.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So absolutely. And I agree, there's, in this new role of mine, there's a lot of new technology that comes along with it, obviously. And so there's a learning curve for everybody involved. And so with the tools at our disposal, we can definitely do some demonstrations to help people.
Great,
A Friday work session would be awesome.
good information.
If I may add, Vicki Nemetchek, Public Works, I just want to add that not only do the residents put these requests in, but that is what we use as our request if someone calls in.
Okay.
So not only are those put in by the residents, but that's the process we use. And right now, we're unable to collect data, except for those numbers that he came up with for potholes. We're basically dead in the water. We don't know where those potholes were. We don't know anything about them. That's not the report of concern that we currently have is very time consuming and not very data friendly. So we use it too. It's not just us. And we use it for a lot of different things. So I would very much say that this is going to make all of our lives easier, engineering and public works, by moving forward with this software.
And hopefully help us to be more quickly responsive, right? Ideally.
We're pretty responsive
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
It's
I agree, but
possible.
I just think it
It's
might
possible
be.
it could speed it up a little bit, but
I see Mr. Cobb concurring with you, Vicki, so that's good to know. If there are no other, are there any other comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract modification, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
As no one's opposed, that item moves forward. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Next item.
Number 29C, contract modification number 1 to contract number 7157 between the City of Cheyenne and United Way of Laramie County to provide services to various community programs to allocate remaining portion of 10% excess monies to human services pursuant to resolution number 5607, 2015-2018 optional 1% sales tax fund.
Staff report.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. This is to allocate the remaining, all of the remaining funds, which is $98,762 of excess monies that were allocated to United Way in 2015 to 2018 fifth penny sales tax. It also extends the contract for an additional year to enable them to use those, and then stipulates that they will use those funds for the support of community programs that provide necessary support of the poor in the areas of education, health, economic mobility to families, and direct services to the homeless. And I am here for further questions, and also there's some United Way folks here.
Thank you all for the work that you do. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $98,762.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
Thank you, Chairman White, through you. So this modification, I know that we're modifying the amount that was in excess. I have two comments. One, I think the modification probably also needs to include the consultant who no longer is there. He's retired, Rod Hoddle. And secondly, I'm wondering why it took us from, these were excess monies from 2015 to 2018. Why we're just now in 2022 getting around to figuring out that we had excess money.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works, I can respond to that.
Okay.
We allocated $395,048. That was the money that you don't know you have until the end of the tax. So that's the first piece, is that you don't have those excess monies until all of the tax has been collected, all of the money has been allocated. You know, then you know what that fund in the resolution designates, that these are where the excess monies go. So those excess monies, 80% go to the roads, so much go to everybody else. And this is what was allocated to human services, was the 395,048. They had a plan for the first 3 years, what they were going to do with that money. And it's shown in that contract. So for the first 3 years, they did that. So that really is 19, 20, 21 kind of thing.
Okay, so it's money after
So
the
it's
fact.
money that really is that they wanted to use it over the course of time and not just allocate it all at once. So this is really kind of that fourth year of money that they're allocating to move forward with programs.
So the money was collected through 2018.
Was collected through the end of calendar year 2018. That's correct.
Okay. And then by the time we counted all of it and we spent the different percentages on different things, we discovered that we had 98,762. That would be the 10%
No,
excess monies.
their excess money totaled $395,048.
That says that's a new contract amount.
That was the entire amount of the excess monies that went to human services for the tax, 2015
Okay.
through 2018
Okay.
tax. But in the contract, they only allocated 3 years worth, or $296,286.
Okay,
So there was the remaining 98,762, and that's what we're allocating now.
thank you.
Other comments or, thank you, Vicky. Comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract modification, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
That item moves forward with Mr. Johnson as a no. Next item, please.
Number 29D, Contract modification number 1 to contract number 7434 between the city of Cheyenne and United Way of Laramie County to provide services to various community programs to allocate funds pursuant to resolution 5933 from 2019 to 2022 optional 1% sales tax fund.
Staff report.
Vicky Nemechek, Public Works. Resolution 5933 is for the tax from 2019 to 2022. In each of those years, the Human Services was allocated $250,000. The first contract for the allocations is not included in here, but they have in fact received $500,000. The third piece of that is this contract 7434, which allocated $250,000 to get them to the $750,000 point. And this modification allocates the last piece, which is the additional $250,000 that takes them to the $1 million that was allocated in the resolution. They will have excess monies after, but again, we don't identify those excess monies until we've collected all the tax, and then we decide.
Therefore, you can determine just how much those excess monies
Exactly.
are in years that there are in excess.
Yes,
Right.
and we hope
I
that
think it's-
continues to be. We
we
haven't
do.
always had that.
But it's important to distinguish that because there've been years where there hasn't been.
That is
as
true.
Robin knows. Okay, thank you, Vicky. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount not to exceed $250,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Dr. Aldrich.
Chairman White, through you. So I'm just curious, Vicky, and I don't know if you or maybe Mr. Doberman will be able to answer this, but I'm looking at the scope of work, the exhibit A. And it has agencies and then hyphen income. And I'm wondering if those were donations that were made specifically to those agencies. Because down further, it says agency dash education and then agency dash health. And I'm curious as to why, I mean, there's obviously some glaring ones that are not on this list. So I'm just curious how this list was selected. Like, for instance, Comia is not on here at all. And I'm just wondering how these entities were chosen or selected.
I can tell you that it's through the Human Services Advisory Council that the entire process runs. And these contracts are a result of what they decide in the Human Services Advisory Council. There's a council member on the council itself. And I
A
think it's
liaison,
Mr.
right?
Yes, I
Which
believe
is-
it's Mr. Roybal. I believe he's a voting member. He's a voting member. It's a 9-person council, 3
Yeah,
from Laramie
There was a
County.
time when the liaison was not a voting member, and that's kind of when I was on, and then I was also on as a member of the public before I got on council. So, yeah, I think it is Mr. Roybal at this.
I believe it's
time.
Mr. Roybal.
And if the process is still the same, which I would assume it is, they get the Human Services Advisory Council receives application from all of these agencies each year and then determines, and it's an arduous process because you're just like sharing pieces of the pie and you're trying to determine what agency gets how much money that there is to dole out. So there's
And
some
this
good
is only the
folks on that
cities, if
committee.
I may,
Right.
this is only the city's portion. The county also has a portion.
Correct.
They may give to different organizations or additional information, additional entities or to the same entities that are on this list. So it's a combination
Okay.
of where, and we do pay United Way $10,500 each year
To
from the
facilitate that.
administrative budget to go through that process. They did, the Human Service Advisory Council did meet recently, and these modifications are both a result of that meeting. If you want to talk to the United Way rep, I'm happy to step aside.
No, I was just curious, and I'm still curious, especially because United Way over the last few years has taken a different tact in that they've been working with coalitions, it was my understanding. Like, for instance, we have the Coalition for the Homeless that incorporates My Front Door, which is on here, Family Promise, as well as Comia, And I think also the welcome mat, in that homeless coalition. And I thought that funding was happening through coalitions now rather than individual entities, but I guess Mr. Doleman is sitting back there wondering if he should go forward or not, so. Thank you.
Hello. You could identify yourself, please.
Mr. Chair, my name is Mark Young. I'm a member of the United Way Board of Directors, and I'm the chair of the Community Investment Review Panel that reviews all of the RFPs that come in from all of our program partners. So, Mr. Chair, if I understand the inquiry, talking mostly about process, I believe. And the process that we, as the Community Investment Review Panel and the United Way has gone to is a collaborative process where historically we have directly funded program partners up to, which has been 24 program partners historically who come to us with individual RFPs. And we would review those and then make determinations on funding on behalf of the city of Cheyenne and the commission, who gives us 250 from the city and 125 from the commission. We would review each of those. And what we had noticed with data over time was that we were not moving the needle, meaning we were not getting the outcomes that we were all hoping for. Everybody was doing wonderful work individually, but unfortunately, everybody has like-minded interests, and there was duplication of effort, quite frankly, in our opinion. So in an effort to eliminate that and become more efficient, the United Way implemented a collaborative process. And that collaborative process really identifies what we ask is in our RFP process, is we ask one of those 20 program partners to take the lead in regards to economic mobility, which is synonymous with homelessness problem, health, and education. So those are the three that are in essence, our kind of our bold goals are built around. And started it last year, had a little bit of success with the economic mobility homeless piece. And this year, we really made an effort to create some clear expectations about what we would need to see in regards to funding. There was a lot of questions. There was meetings at the library. There were multiple meetings with program partners across the county to clarify what we were doing and what the process would look like. And so we got to a point where everybody we believe is on board, and we asked for the RFPs, and starting in the 1st of July, we received RFPs from 4 different collaboratives. We had 2 from economic mobility. One is led by Comia. They stepped up with their programs, with their partners, and they're leading one of them. The other economic mobility leader is Climb Wyoming. And they have their own program partners. The lead on education is Boys and Girls Club, who are supported with their program partners, and then health is led by HealthWorks, who also has their program partners. The Community Investment Review Panel is made up of 10 volunteers community-wide who are not a part of United Way. We wanted that to be at an arm's length, so we weren't getting into any kind of misperceptions about how monies are allocated. So it was a peer review panel, and we made funding recommendations, and the letters went out to each of these collaboratives. We thought it was a very successful collaborative approach this year. And you have voted on a contract extension for $98,000, which we're going to increase funding from our original recommendations to the Boys and Girls Club and to HealthWorks for that night. We'll split up that $98,000. So the process is 10 members get together, review the RFPs, and then make funding recommendations to United Way and United Way staff, and the board then make it formal, and then they send the letters out, and as a part of that funding, it includes the $250,000 from the city of Cheyenne. Mr. Chair, that was long-winded. I hope I hit some of the pieces that were helpful.
I appreciate the information, and I think you articulated it very well.
So,
Go ahead, Dr.
Chairman
Aldrich.
White, so where it says agency hyphen income up here, that really should be agency economic mobility? Is that what that's standing for?
Income was an old.
Was the old title?
moniker,
Okay,
the
and
old
now it's
title.
economic mobility. Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Other comments or questions from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract modification, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh,
I'm having internet problems. I don't know why.
okay,
Um,
stand by on that vote.
yes. Sorry. Ken, are you with us? Can you hear us? Because he texted me as if he was.
I'm gonna text Richard. We're probably gonna lose Richard at noon.
Richard can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay, thanks, Richard. Sorry about that. So we're just waiting to see if we can get a hold of Ken.
Was Mr. Johnson enough?
Yes. Well, I think we ought to.
I mean, I don't know if it's him or me. I mean, I did lose connection, so I don't know.
Well, whomever, we need to move forward
Okay,
while we
that's
still
fine.
have a
So-
quorum.
So
So
Dr. Aldrich is a
Dr.
yes.
Aldridge is an aye.
And
Those opposed?
No.
Therefore, this item will not have a recommendation to the next meeting of the governing body. Mr. Johnson is no. We do have two additional items today, so please bear with us. Next item, please.
Resolution supporting the Cheyenne Regional Airport Board in the application for and acceptance of federal assistance from the Federal Aviation Administration under the Airport Improvement Program to assist in funding costs related to reconstruction of runway 927 at Cheyenne Regional Airport.
Staff report. Sorry it took so long.
Nathan Benton, Deputy Director, Cheyenne Regional Airport. Cheyenne Regional Airport Board is a joint powers board created by the city of Cheyenne and Laramie County. As such, the Federal Aviation Administration asks that all three entities sign off on all of our AIP grant agreements. Currently, we have an application for up to $24 million of funding for the next phase of runway reconstruction. The FAA has managed to pull together end of fiscal year 22 funds in order to fund this request. It looks like it's a single request, but it looks like it's going to be funded across two grants, AIP 63 and AIP 64. And really at this point, the funding is there, it's ready to go. We are just waiting on approval from all the governing bodies to sign the grant agreements. And I can stand for any questions.
Thank you, Nathan. Comments or questions from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve in the amount of $24 million.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee?
Thank you for your work.
Hearing none, all those in favor of this resolution, please signify by saying aye.
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 And we still don't have Mr. Escabel back, so that item moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, please.
Number B, contract modification number 2 to contract number 7199 between the Wyoming Department of Family Services and the City of Cheyenne Office of Youth Alternatives for kinship advocacy services for displaced at-risk youth, extending the contract term to September 20th of 2023 and increasing the total dollar amount by $30,000.
Staff report. Mr. Sullivan, are you still with us?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I'm still here in committee members. Jay Sullivan, Director of Youth Alternatives. This is a longstanding contract between the Department of Family Services and Youth Alternatives to provide the kinship services to the youth and families in the community. Basically, those services consist of providing assistance to families that find themselves in unforeseen or desperate situations where the youth do not have a legal guardian to advocate for them. And so we have a staff person that will work with those families and youth in the courts to make sure that those services are in place and that those youth, for example, can get enrolled in public school in terms of having a legal guardian. The amount, again, this year is $30,000. The original amount was $60,000 over the course of 2 years, and this is a continuation in revenue to the city in that amount. I'll stand by for any questions.
Thank you, Jay. Comments from the public? Hearing none, do I have a motion from the committee?
I would move to approve an amount no less than $30,000.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments from the committee? Hearing none, all those in favor of this contract modification, please signify by saying aye.
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 As no one's opposed, that item moves forward, and as there are no other items on our agenda, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks for bearing with us, everyone.